While most beefs between musicians end up quickly squashed once the people involved realize how childish they're acting, some feuds spiral completely out of control and last forever. Hey, musicians are a sensitive lot, so headline-making rivalries are to be expected from time to time. Unless you're Cain and Abel, your sibling squabbles probably don't run as deep as they do for Oasis's Noel and Liam Gallagher. The two have apparently barely gotten along since childhood, making it a small miracle they formed a band in the first place. Within a few years, their infighting had overshadowed their music, with incidents like Liam hitting Noel with a tambourine during a show, Liam accusing Noel of fathering a child outside marriage, Liam regularly leaving during shows only to be found somewhere drinking instead. You know, maybe we're starting to see who's the instigator here.
We don't like each other, man.
And by all accounts, Liam also started the 2009 blow-up that led to Noel quitting the band and the brothers finally splitting for good. Apparently, Liam had canceled an important gig but managed to blame it on Noel. Tempers flared and Liam did the one thing you never do to a musician. He broke one of Noel's guitars. That did it. Noel quit that night, and the brothers have not been together since. Of all the things to fight about, you'd think best sad 80s singer guy would bottom out the list. And yet, Robert Smith of The Cure and Morrissey of The Smiths have been constantly swiping at one another since the 80s. It started when Morrissey was doing what he did best, insulting people. When asked during an interview who he'd shoot with one bullet, Robert Smith or some other guy, he answered, "I'd line them up so that one bullet penetrated both simultaneously." Robert Smith is a whinge bag. Smith has also called Morrissey a precious, miserable bastard, all the things people think I am, and even quipped, "If Morrissey says not to eat meat, then I'll eat meat. That's how much I hate Morrissey." The Smiths singer, meanwhile, has said The Cure gives a new dimension to the word crap and made it perfectly clear that he has never liked them. Now, Morrissey doesn't like anybody or anything.
Among the many things that Morrissey has said on record he actually hates are Elton John, George Michael, Madonna, Vic Reeves, Bob Geldof, Tony Wilson.
But still, with both sides publicly saying they'd happily put the other 6 feet under, don't expect a conciliatory hug and cry session anytime soon. The hip-hop beef has been embedded in the genre's marrow from the beginning and has yielded some of its most thrilling moments. Nas vs. JayZ is still the gold standard. Even Jay's mom had to step in when things got too heated. Some tame references on a few late 90s cuts notwithstanding, it was Jay dissecting Nas's career with surgical precision on 2001's The Takeover that really set this lyrical deathmatch in motion. The ball was in Nas's court, and Nas took the ball, doused it in lighter fluid, and shot it out of a cannon. His ether dropped a few months later, and was so devastating that the word ether has become a shorthand term for having lyrically destroyed your rival on a track. Some fans thought it was over then and there, but Jay decided to double down and get reckless. He premiered Super Ugly on Hot 97 FM and explicitly referenced having hooked up with the mother of Nas's daughter. Jay's mother was so appalled that she urged her son to apologize, which he later did. Occasional shots were fired over the years until they performed on stage together during Jay's I Declare War concert in 2005 and publicly quashed this musician feud. They've even recorded a couple tracks together since, tossing their differences overboard and sailing that friendship all the way to the bank.
How did the JayZ beef start?
I'm really over that.
Right.
I really don't like, really want to, I'm really over that, man,
The fact that this so-called feud is still being talked about is either a huge testament to our tendency to make a whole lot of noise over a whole heap of nothing where celebrities are concerned, or an even bigger testament to Mariah Carey's Olympian capacity for throwing shade. In 2000, a German TV network asked Carey for her opinion on a few of her contemporaries. She spoke very highly of Beyoncé, but when asked about J-Lo, she simply smiled and replied,
I don't know. Die kenne ich nicht.
Ouch. Carey's 4 little words provided enough meme fodder to keep gossip lovers warm and happy for many winters.
There was the moment where you said, I don't know her. And then she said, I know her.
Ago, I can't believe people still make such a big deal out of it.
J-Lo told Andy Cohen she harbored no ill will toward Carey in 2014 and hoped the feeling was mutual.
I don't have a feud against her at all. I know from back in the day, I read things that she said about me that were, not the greatest.
At the 2015 Billboard Music Awards, though, J-Lo was caught idly looking at her phone during Carey's performance. She claimed that it was just sneaky editing and bad timing. The whole thing wallowed in this sort of passive-aggressive nothingness until late 2017, when record label owner Irv Gotti revealed the two had actually been pitted against each other behind the scenes back in the early 2000s by one Tommy Mottola, a label exec and Carey's ex-husband.
My, the plot like my gravy thicken.
This feud between superstars all started, of course, with that infamous "I'ma let you finish" interruption during Taylor's acceptance speech at the 2009 VMAs. What happened over the next 8-ish years was a noisy mishmash of more award show drama, lyrical potshots, and 2 or 3 planet-sized egos. Following the outburst, Kanye was slammed by everyone from fellow rapper 50 Cent.
I wish you would come take one of my awards so I could black his eye in front of everybody.
To then President Barack Obama.
The young lady seems like a perfectly nice person. She's getting her award. What's he doing?
Why would he do that?
He's a jackass.
A brief apology tour followed, but then a year or so later, he slowly started backpedaling and trying to justify his actions. Even so, they seem to have buried the hatchet by 2015 when Taylor presented JayZ with the Vanguard Award at the VMAs that year. But then Kanye dropped Famous in 2016, reigniting the feud and turning more than a few heads with the line, "I feel like me and Taylor Swift might still have sex. Why? I made that famous." Taylor said she was shocked, but Kanye claimed to have gotten her blessing for the line beforehand. She denied this, and wild speculation and bickering was rife until Kim Kardashian set things straight on Snapchat, posting a partial recording of the phone conversation in which Taylor's blessing had, in fact, been given. Taylor shot back with some harsh words on "Look What You Made Me Do" in late 2017, so just when this will all end is anyone's guess. At first, the feud between the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Faith No More was kinda cute. The two bands were both members of the fledgling funk metal genre, and at one time, Faith No More would occasionally open for the Peppers. So everything was pretty amicable until Peppers lead singer Anthony Kiedis saw Faith No More's video for Epic. He became convinced that Faith No More singer Mike Patton was stealing his moves, and he worried fans would think the Peppers were the copycats. But at the time, it didn't really escalate beyond the two men taking occasional verbal jabs at each other. But then in 1999, Faith No More went on hiatus and Patton returned to his other band, Mr. Bungle. That summer, Mr. Bungle received notice that they'd been cut from the lineup at several festivals because the Peppers, specifically Kiedis, were threatening to pull out of shows if Mr. Bungle didn't get the boot. So in response, Mr. Bungle performed at a Halloween show dressed as the Peppers. That was bad enough, but they then mocked the band by butchering all their songs and even going so far as pretending to inject heroin, a drug that the Peppers have a troubled history with. Imagine if you achieved fame and thanked the guy who inspired you, but then that guy expressed regret over that inspiration. That's pretty much exactly what happened between Rage Against the Machine and Limp Bizkit. It wasn't just a case of one band not appreciating the admiration of the other, either. Rage got a kick in the metaphorical man parts when Limp Bizkit's Break Stuff beat out Rage's Sleep Now in the Fire for Best Rock Video at the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards. As Limp Bizkit accepted their award, Rage bassist Tim Comerford crashed the stage, climbed a 20-foot fake palm tree, and refused to come down. Even after that, Limp Bizkit regularly covered Rage songs and sometimes even spoke enthusiastically about the band that inspired them. Frontman Fred Durst even told a crowd in 2014 that Rage's killing in the name had changed his life. Durst's childlike admiration only seemed to embarrass Rage Against the Machine, though. As Comerford told Rolling Stone in 2015, "I do apologize for Limp Bizkit. I really do." While there are exceptions, it's usually a good rule of thumb to never go into business with your significant other. Case in point, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham, who were a couple when they joined Fleetwood Mac. In 1977, the band released Rumors, one of the best-selling albums of all time, but everything fell apart soon afterward. The members barely spoke to each other in the studio, and when it was over, everyone broke up, including Nicks and Buckingham. But the bad vibes had been brewing for a while. The couple took out their frustrations with each other in the music itself. Landslide and Rhiannon were allegedly about Nicks' relationship with Buckingham, and Buckingham wrote the scathing Go Your Own Way about Nicks. The feud between the exes went on for years until 2018 when the band fired Buckingham over a disagreement. But according to the band's manager, it was actually because Buckingham smirked during Nicks' speech at the Music Cares benefit show. Buckingham responded by suing the whole band for breach of contract. Simon and Garfunkel's decades of acrimony started literally from the beginning. After Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel recorded their first album together, Simon ignored it in favor of touring solo abroad, which makes us wonder why he agreed to team up in the first place. After the pair split in 1970, they didn't work together again for 5 years. Once they finally recorded a new tune, they bickered so much over who owned it that they both released it on their own solo albums. It makes you wonder if they also draw a line in the middle of the studio so neither could sully the other's side. Then came a historic free concert in Central Park in 1981 that was followed by an extended tour, but this turned out to be a very temporary reconciliation. A planned reunion album became a solo Simon album that nobody liked, and they divorced yet again. They've reunited for quickie money tours occasionally since then, but each time their differences take over and they storm off before killing one another. More recently, Simon has claimed that his resentment reached a fever pitch when Garfunkel started pursuing an acting career in the early 70s, while Garfunkel has outright called Simon an idiot who threw away duo potential over solo selfishness. Furthermore, he blames himself, saying that his kindness towards Simon in high school, quote, created a monster.